Premiership Power Rankings for round number 15. I've seen very few of these games. Basically, the Six Nations has been on, and that's been taking much of my attention. But we'll go through the Power Rankings. We'll kind of keep up with them, if not the kind of match wrap-ups, because I'm not sure how many matches I'll see. But yeah, we'll go through the Power Rankings, compare them to how things sit on the log, who's up, who's down, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on who's too high, who's too low. Starting with the low side of things, still in 13th from last week, it's Worcester. Bath has not yet managed to snap back that 13th spot, which they took for such a long time. It's like 4 losses in a row. Pretty big away win, albeit at Leicester, where they weren't really expected to get much done. So, yeah, what else can you say? The losing run for Worcester goes on, and it's back to losing ways for Bath. They also got a big away loss to one of the top teams in their massive loss to Saracens. I guess all I can say is their recent results, which I'm kind of waiting with more of a weight than the start of the season, where Worcester got some of their wins, is slightly, their recent results are slightly better than Worcester's. Like Bath have actually had a couple of wins, Worcester not so much. So there you go, 2 bottom teams. Third from bottom, and also I think the same as last week, it's the Falcons. It's a huge losing run. Newcastle at the moment are doing their best to steal either 12th or 13th from Bath or Worcester, because I think it's 6 losses in a row. Plus there's a bye in there as well with between their most recent wins, so it's essentially 7 Premiership weeks on the bounce with no wins, which feels like a lifetime ago, especially seeing as you've had European games in there as well. So it's a very, very long time since Newcastle have had a win. They are pretty much neck and neck with Bath, honestly, because, as I said, Bath have more recent wins. And as the weighting continues to diminish on the old wins, the new wins get slightly more weight. There you go. Bristol, interestingly, are still the same, despite their good win over Newcastle. So they've not gone up on the board, but I can assure you they've kind of gone up in the back end of how I calculate these things. So there's a big gap between Bristol and Newcastle now, massive. So yeah, the gap between these 3 teams and the rest is pretty huge, and the gap between Bristol and these guys, the Chiefs, is very little. So Bristol's making up some ground. Finally, after a pretty rotten start to the season. Exeter are down 2. It was a narrow loss at home to Wasps, but that's 3 losses on the bounce. What can I say, man? If you're going to lose 3 on the bounce, you're going to drop some spots on the power rankings. That's kind of the way it works. So Exeter are 7th on the table. I've got them 9th on the power rankings just because the recent form is not there. The other teams are pretty much in their same spots as the table, except for the fact that Bath and Worcester are around the other way. The next row, we've got London Irish here in 8th spot. London Irish, it's still a bit of a mixed bag, and it's hard to judge them because they did have 2 weeks with no games. So, yeah, they lost to high-flying Gloucester. But yeah, there's not that many recent games, so they're down 2. And that fits with their table spot of 8th as well. So I think that's about right for the moment. They're kind of in that position where they do have the potential to beat the teams above them, but they still could potentially drop games to the teams below them. But their season's been going all right. I think better than many predicted. One of the biggest shock ones I've got here is Quins, down in 7th. Quins are like 4th on the table, so they're doing well on the table. But in terms of recent form, yeah, it's not that great. They've won 3 of their last 7, which is not like a top-ranked team, right? Yeah, it's been kind of middling. I know they've got some guys away with England. They just had a big home loss to Sale, which is a big dip in terms of their rank. So yeah, I've got them down kind of a couple spots from the week before. Speaking of Sale, Harlequins' misery is Sale's joy. Sale, kind of like Bristol, had a pretty rotten start to the season, but they're doing all right now. I got them up 3 spots. They're only on 9th on the log, but I'm saying their recent form kind of speaks a bit better to that. I have to think how many Sale players are in the England squad, because I know they've got fair contingent of guys who are kind of not Six Nations eligible players, which maybe benefits them as opposed to some of the other teams. Maybe it's now kind of a time to strike and get some form. But up 3 spots are Sale. They've had a lot of good wins, and good win at Harlequins is worthy of them going up the log. Speaking of going up, Wasps I've also got up. Wasps are in 6th on the table, so I've got them 1 spot higher than that. They have won 3 games in a row and 4 from their last 5. So it was only a 1-point win away at the Chiefs, but Wasps, when they've got some players, are actually doing all right. So combine that with their European form, which I don't take into account here. They're starting to look pretty tidy, which is pretty pleasing getting into the business end of the season. Top row, I've got Northampton, who were on the bye, so they're kind of nothing really doing with them. They are the same as last week, so no changes for them. I've got Sharsies here in 3rd. Despite their big win, it was only over Bath, but it was a really big win. They needed that as well because they were on a 2-game losing streak, so that's over now. But they stick to their 3rd spot. I've got Gloucester here. Gloucester are seemingly the current form team. In the power rankings terms, I've got them only slightly behind the Tigers, because you know the Tigers are first. 6 of their last 7 wins. Big win over London Irish. You've got to be pretty pleased. For the Tigers, they managed to keep their top spot with their win over Worcester. Again, they were also on 2 losses in a row, so Gloucester was absolutely closing that gap, but not quite enough. If Leicester had lost, certainly Gloucester would have passed them for top spot, but not quite. So yeah, you guys let me know what your thoughts are. I haven't watched much of the Premiership this week, as I said, with the Six Nations on. It's kind of drawn a wee bit of my attention, but you guys let me know what you reckon. I will, throughout the week, try to catch up on some of the games. You let me know, if any, which ones I should potentially catch up on, seeing as I know the results. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.